The revelation that Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas has been accepting secret luxury trips from Republican Megadonor Harlan Crow for more than 2 decades is sure to raise eyebrows and generate controversy. ProPublica's report alleges that the trips may violate a law requiring disclosure for private jet flights. This is not the first time Justice Thomas has come under fire from ethics experts and other critics over his and his wife's political activities. The potential conflict of interest is significant, given that Crow has donated generously to conservative causes and Republican politicians, including Donald Trump. Justice Thomas's acceptance of these trips could raise questions about his impartiality and ability to make unbiased rulings on cases that involve issues related to Republican or conservative interests. This latest development is likely to fuel calls for stricter ethics rules and greater transparency regarding the activities of Supreme Court justices. The Supreme Court is one of the most powerful institutions in the country, and its decisions have far-reaching consequences. It is crucial that its members are held to the highest ethical standards and are not perceived as being unduly influenced by outside interests. As the controversy surrounding Justice Thomas continues to grow, it remains to be seen how the Supreme Court will address these allegations and what steps may be taken to ensure the integrity of its members and the decisions they make. The ProPublica report about Justice Clarence Thomas accepting secret luxury trips from a Republican Megadonor for more than 2 decades has raised questions about his compliance with financial disclosure laws. Thomas has vacationed on the donor's superyacht, flown on his private jet, and spent time at his private resort and other exclusive retreats without reporting them as required by law. This revelation adds to the criticism Thomas has faced for his wife's political activities and potential conflicts of interest. Ethics experts have expressed their disbelief and called for stricter codes of conduct for Supreme Court justices. Senator Dick Durbin has also condemned Thomas's reported behavior as inconsistent with the ethical standards expected of a public servant, let alone a justice on the Supreme Court. The ProPublica report has raised serious questions about Justice Thomas's ethical conduct and the transparency of his financial disclosures. The fact that he has reportedly accepted luxury gifts and vacations from a wealthy donor, who has also donated millions to political causes, without disclosing them on his financial reports for more than 2 decades is troubling. It is not the first time that Justice Thomas has faced criticism over his ethics. His wife's political activities have also come under scrutiny, particularly her involvement in conservative movements aimed at overturning the 2020 election. This latest revelation will likely add fuel to the fire of those who believe that Justice Thomas has failed to meet the high ethical standards expected of a Supreme Court justice. The issue also underscores the need for greater transparency and accountability among Supreme Court justices. While they are not bound by the same ethical restrictions as other judges, they are still required to submit financial disclosures and disclose any gifts or travel valued at over $415. The fact that Justice Thomas reportedly did not disclose his luxury trips raises questions about the adequacy of these rules and the need for more robust oversight of the Supreme Court. Subscribe for more content like this. As the highest court in the land, the Supreme Court plays a crucial role in upholding the rule of law and protecting the rights of all Americans. It is essential that the justices who serve on it maintain the highest ethical standards and avoid even the appearance of impropriety. The ProPublica report raises serious concerns about whether Justice Thomas has met this standard, and underscores the need for greater transparency and accountability in the highest levels of our judiciary. Critics of Justice Thomas say that this recent revelation further undermines public trust in the Supreme Court, especially at a time when the court has been accused of politicization and partisan leanings. Some have called for Thomas to recuse himself from cases involving Harlan Crow or groups to which he has donated. Others are pushing for stricter ethics rules for Supreme Court justices, similar to those in place for lower-level judges. In response to the ProPublica report, Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Dick Durbin called for an enforceable code of conduct for Supreme Court justices. He said, "This behavior is simply inconsistent with the ethical standards the American people expect of any public servant, let alone a justice on the Supreme Court." The Supreme Court is meant to be an independent and impartial institution that upholds the rule of law. However, this recent revelation about Justice Thomas and his long-standing relationship with Harlan Crow raises questions about the extent to which wealthy donors can influence the court's decision-making process. It remains to be seen how Justice Thomas and the Supreme Court as an institution will respond to these allegations, but the ProPublica report has certainly generated significant controversy and renewed calls for greater transparency and accountability in the highest court in the land. In conclusion, the ProPublica report on Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas accepting secret luxury trips from Republican Megadonor Harlan Crow for over 2 decades raises concerns about potential ethical violations and conflicts of interest. The report alleges that Thomas violated the law by not disclosing the private jet flights and luxury vacations, which were not reported on his financial disclosures. Thomas has faced criticism in the past for his wife's political activities and involvement in schemes to overturn the 2020 election. The investigation has added to the scrutiny surrounding the justice's ethical standards, with some experts calling for an enforceable code of conduct for Supreme Court justices. The story highlights the importance of transparency and ethical behavior among public officials, especially those in positions of high authority and influence. The revelation of Justice Clarence Thomas's secret luxury trips with Republican Megadonor Harlan Crow has once again raised questions about his ethics and conflicts of interest on the Supreme Court. The trips appear to violate a law requiring disclosure for private jet flights, and Thomas has not reported them on his financial disclosures as required by law. Critics say Thomas's close relationship with Crow, coupled with his wife's political activities in conservative circles, poses a conflict of interest that undermines public trust in the Supreme Court. While Thomas and Crow deny any impropriety, the report highlights the need for stricter ethical standards for Supreme Court justices. Thanks for watching. Subscribe our channel for authenticity.